The silent storm, the cold wind screamed like a beast through the endless white fields. Elliot pulled his broken coat tighter around him, but it did nothing. The snow was too strong. It hit his face like sharp needles. His boots were frozen. His hands, inside thick gloves, were shaking. His emergency beacon blinked red. That meant failure. He stared at the tiny device in his hand. It was supposed to call for help. It was supposed to save him. But now it was just blinking ... useless. "I'm not going to die here," Elliot whispered through chattering teeth. "Someone has to hear me ... But no one was out there. No one ever came to this part of the frozen planet Carrick 7. Not even animals. Just ice, snow, and silence. His ship had crash-landed 3 days ago. His co-pilot didn't make it. Elliot was the only one left. He tried to walk. 1 foot, then another. But the wind pushed him back, and his vision blurred. Everything was white. White sky, white ground. He didn't know which way was up anymore. Suddenly, the snow beneath his foot gave way. He dropped fast, sliding down a slope hidden beneath the snow layer. He crashed at the bottom and groaned. Pain stabbed through his shoulder. His beacon flew from his hand and disappeared in the snow. He didn't move. He couldn't. The cold was inside him now. Elliot's mind drifted. Memories of Earth, flashed green trees, warm coffee, his little sister laughing. Then nothing, but somewhere far away, someone did hear him. Deep in a crystal cavern under the snow, a young alien girl's head snapped up. Her name was Lyrian, and her ears were long and sensitive. She could hear vibrations in the ice. The others in her hidden tribe laughed at her for listening too much. But she knew what she heard now was real. A voice, soft, broken, human. "No one comes up here," said her older sister, frowning. "It's probably just snow movement." But Lyrian shook her head. "No," she signed with her hands. "It's a cry. He's dying." Without waiting, she grabbed her thick fur coat, a glowing spear for warmth, and ran toward the icy tunnel that led upward. Lyrian. Someone called. But she didn't stop. She had never left the caves alone before. Outside was dangerous, cold, deadly, but her heart beat fast. Something told her she had to go. Elliot was half buried now. Only his head and one hand were above the snow. He couldn't feel his legs anymore. His lips had turned blue. He closed his eyes. Then soft footsteps. He blinked. A figure moved through the snowstorm. It was small, wrapped in thick fur-lined clothes. A glowing blue light came from her staff. Elliot's breath hitched. Was it death? A hallucination? But then he saw her face. Young, beautiful, not human. Her skin was light purple. Her eyes glowing silver. Her long hair floated like it was underwater. She bent over him, touched his cheek, and hummed a strange, soft note. It vibrated in the air. I don't understand," Elliot whispered. She placed a warm crystal near his chest. Heat flowed into him like fire. She began digging fast with her hands. Elliot tried to speak again, but the words wouldn't come. The storm howled louder. Finally she pulled him free, threw one of his arms over her shoulder, and began dragging him slowly through the snow. He tried to help, but he was too weak. "Who ... are you?" he asked. She didn't reply with words. Just a look. Her eyes were kind but worried. Like time was running out. Hours passed. Lyrian reached the secret rock ledge she had climbed up from. She opened a hidden panel in the ice, revealing a smooth tunnel that led down into warm caverns. Elliot groaned. "This isn't Earth," Lyrian smiled faintly. She shook her head. As they stepped into the tunnel, the snowstorm screamed behind them. The entrance closed. Inside, glowing crystals lit the walls with soft blue light. Warmth returned to Elliot's fingers. He could breathe again. He looked at the girl beside him. She walked silently, leading him deeper into the underground. "Why did you help me?" He asked. She stopped, turned, then slowly signed with her hands. I heard you. Elliot lay on a soft bed of glowing moss. His skin no longer felt like frozen stone. The walls around him were made of smooth blue crystal. It was quiet, too quiet. He sat up slowly. His shoulders still hurt. His lips were cracked, but he was alive. He looked around. This place was like nothing on any human map. The air was warm and fresh. Blue light pulsed through the walls like veins. Strange shapes moved above creatures like birds, but made of shimmering mist. And then she returned. The alien girl who had saved him walked into the room, holding a small bowl. Her purple skin shimmered slightly in the crystal light. She had no shoes on. Her feet made no sound. Her long hair was tied behind her head in a loose braid, and her silver eyes met his. Elliot's heart beat faster, not from fear, from wonder. She knelt beside him and offered the bowl. A sweet smell rose from it, warm broth. He accepted it with shaking hands. Thank you, he whispered. She smiled and gave a small nod. He took a sip. It was thick and strange, but delicious. He finished it quickly. Who are you? He asked. She paused, then raised her hands. She moved her fingers in sharp, graceful signs. Elliot blinked. I don't understand. Sign language? She nodded, then pointed to herself. Lyrian, Elliot said slowly, guessing. Your name? Her smile grew brighter. He pointed to himself. Elliot. Lyrian repeated it quietly under her breath, testing the name on her tongue. Lee. Ought. It was the first time he had heard her voice, soft, musical, like wind chimes in a warm breeze. You can speak? He asked. She looked down and shook her head, then tapped her throat and made an X with her fingers. Not by choice, he understood. She could only speak a little. Elliot leaned back against the wall, sighing. Well, I guess we'll figure it out. Later that day, Lyrian returned with new clothes. Elliot's frozen uniform had been taken away, probably to dry. The clothes she gave him were alien-made, thick, soft, stitched from fur and strange fibers. They fit surprisingly well. She guided him through the crystal tunnels. Other aliens, tall, quiet, and dressed in dark robes, passed them, staring with narrow eyes. Elliot noticed they never greeted her. Some even turned away. Are they your people? He asked. Lyrian didn't answer. She just walked faster. They reached a large round chamber lit by a hanging sphere. Water dripped from the ceiling. In the center, a fountain bubbled with glowing liquid. Lyrian knelt and pressed her hand to a crystal panel. The walls lit up, images formed like holograms. Elliot stepped closer. He saw stars, ships, and human faces. He froze. That's Earth tech, he said. Those are old satellite images. How did you get these? Lyrian didn't smile this time. Her eyes turned serious. She pointed at the broken wreckage of a human probe floating in one of the images. A memory. She signed slowly. We watched your kind. We listened. Not all believed. But I did, Elliot frowned. You've been learning about us. For how long? She tapped her wrist time and then made a large circle in the air. Years, he guessed. She nodded. She had been curious about humans long before he crashed here. He looked at her in disbelief. Why help me? Lyrian hesitated, then made a sign over her heart, a swirl, a tremble. You felt something? He asked. She pointed to the wall. One recording played a faint audio clip. Elliot's voice, that moment in the storm. Anyone, please help. Her ears had picked it up, deep underground. Elliot swallowed hard. You heard me when no one else did. She nodded, then touched her hand to his. Warm. Trust. But their peace didn't last long. A sharp sound rang through the chamber. Lyrian flinched. She grabbed Elliot's arm and pulled him into the shadows behind the fountain. Two tall alien guards entered. They wore ice blue armor and carried curved staffs. They scanned the room with glowing eyes. One of them sniffed. "The air. Human," he growled in his language. "It's close." Lyrian held her breath. So did Elliot. The guards walked past them, slow, searching, ready to kill. Then they turned and left. Elliot looked at Lyrian. "They want to kill me?" She didn't need to sign. Her eyes said yes. "They don't know you helped me?" She shook her head quickly, then tapped her temple. "Secret." Elliot leaned back against the wall, breathing hard. "You're risking your life for me." She looked at him, almost sadly, then signed something new. "You are not the first human to come here, but you might be the last." Elliot followed Lyrian deeper into the tunnels. The blue crystal walls shimmered softly as if alive. Warm air brushed his skin. For a place buried in snow and ice, this underground world felt strangely safe, almost magical. But Elliot didn't. Relax, the alien guards had been close. Too close. He knew he couldn't stay hidden forever. "Where are we going?" he whispered, though he knew she wouldn't answer with words. Lyrian turned slightly and raised her hand in a follow sign. They walked through narrow passages that twisted like the inside of a giant shell. The deeper they went, the stranger the world became. Glowing moss climbed the walls. Floating lights drifted in the air like jellyfish. In the distance, Elliot heard soft music voices humming in harmony. It echoed beautifully through the cavern. They stepped into a wide chamber. Elliot stopped walking. His mouth slowly fell open. The hidden city stretched out before them, carved entirely from glowing crystal and living ice. Towers grew from the ground like trees. Bridges arched between them like frozen vines. Alien children with bright eyes and soft-colored skin laughed and danced near pools of steaming water. It was beautiful, peaceful, alive. Elliot had seen many cities during his travels across space, but nothing like this. Lyrian glanced back at him, her smile small but proud. "This is your home?" he asked softly. She nodded. She guided him along a side path to avoid the crowd. Elliot understood if anyone recognized him, he'd be in danger. They passed small markets. Alien vendors sold strange fruits and glowing stones. No one noticed him under the thick hood Lyrian had given him, but he kept his head down just in case. Soon, they reached a small chamber with metal tools and strange machines scattered across shelves. "This is your room?" he asked. She gave a small shrug, then pointed to a broken device on the table. Elliot stepped closer. It was an old human drone. Cracked and dirty, but still recognizable. "You fixed this?" he asked. She tapped her head and nodded, then held up a data crystal. Elliot took it, turning it over in his hand. It had a human symbol on it. "Old, pre-war. You've been studying." "You seriously?" he said. Lyrian signed, curious. "Want to know truth, not fear." Elliot sat down slowly. "Why are your people afraid of humans?" She hesitated, then walked to the wall and touched it. Images appeared again, this time of fire and destruction, human warships, explosions in space, a planet burning. Elliot frowned. "That's not all of us. Not every human is like that." She nodded. Her fingers moved slowly. "But some are. And fear spreads." He looked at her sadly. "So you've hidden all this, just to learn the truth?" Lyrian didn't answer. Instead, she pulled out a damaged heating unit and pushed it toward him. Elliot recognized the model. It was old, but he'd fixed many like it during his military days. He smiled. "All right. Let's see if I still remember how to fix these." Lyrian watched him work. He used a small blade from his pocket to open the panel, then began adjusting wires. After 10 minutes, the unit hummed to life. A soft glow lit the room, and warm air flowed out. Lyrian gasped, eyes wide with joy. She clapped her hands quietly and laughed. It was the first time Elliot saw her laugh. That sound, it made him forget the cold outside. She signed. "You're different from stories." So are you, he replied. Before she could respond, a sharp sound echoed through the tunnel. Lyrian froze. What is it? Elliot whispered. She ran to the door and peeked out. Her eyes narrowed. She turned and quickly signed. Elder. Coming. You must hide. Elliot's heart raced. Where? Lyrian rushed to a nearby panel. She tapped it 3 times. A section of the wall opened like a drawer. A hidden space? Elliot asked. She pointed inside. No time to argue. He climbed in, pulling the panel shut behind him. Darkness. He heard the door open. Heavy footsteps. A deep, rough voice spoke in the alien tongue. Elliot didn't understand, but he could hear anger in the tone. The elder's voice grew louder, accusing. Lyrian answered calmly, but her voice trembled. Then, silence. The door closed. A moment later, the hidden panel opened again. Lyrian pulled Elliot out, her face pale. Her hands shook. What did he say? Elliot asked. She signed slowly. He smelled human scent. Warned me, said. If he finds you, he will destroy you. Elliot swallowed hard. I can't stay here forever, he said. Lyrian looked him in the eyes. Her fingers moved carefully. Then we find another way. A safer place. But for now, stay close, very close. Elliot nodded. He didn't know where this was going, but he trusted her. And that trust was the only light he had. In this city, buried beneath the ice, *. The next morning, Elliot woke to a strange sound. Horns. Not loud, but deep and haunting. The sound echoed through the ice tunnels like a warning. Lyrian was already dressed. She stood near the door, eyes wide, lips pressed tight. What is it? Elliot asked, rising quickly. She turned, signing quickly. Elders call all to the circle. They know you are here. His stomach dropped. How? Lyrian signed. A child saw you, told her father. The elders decided. Decided what? She looked away for a moment, then signed slowly. You must face the trial of the Blizzarites. Elliot blinked. That sounds bad. Lyrian didn't answer. She led him through tunnels, this time not hiding him. Many aliens stared. Some with fear, some with hate. Others just watched quietly. Elliot kept close to Lyrian. They entered a huge open hall made of smooth black ice. A circle of ancient aliens sat in tall chairs carved from crystal. They wore robes with silver thread. Their faces were hard and cold. The middle chair belonged to the High Elder Erelkin, his white beard frozen into small icicles. His eyes glowed, blue like fire under snow. The elder stood. This human is a danger, he said in their language. A translator crystal on the wall repeated the words in human speech. He should have died on the surface. But our silence was broken when one of our own saved him. Now we must test his worth. Elliot stepped forward. I didn't ask to be saved, but I'm not here to hurt anyone. You are here, the elder said sharply, and that is enough. Lyrian raised her hand and stepped forward. He's not like the others, she signed with emotion. He fixed our heater. He protected our secrets. The elder scowled. Silence, girl. You will answer later for your part in this. Lyrian didn't flinch. Another elder leaned in. Let him take the trial. If he survives, maybe fate has chosen him. The High Elder nodded. Very well. He turned to Elliot. You will face the Blizzarite. If you live, we will speak again. If you die, your bones will feed the storm. That night, Lyrian led Elliot to a chamber near the surface. She held his arms tight. I'm sorry, she signed. Don't be, Elliot whispered. You saved me once. I'll find a way again. She handed him a short blade made of carved ice crystal. Sharp, light, and cold. He turned it in his hand. And this trial, what is a Blizzarite? She hesitated, then touched a panel on the wall. A glowing image appeared, a huge beast, covered in white fur, with 6 legs and burning red eyes. Its mouth had 2 jaws. Its breath was freezing mist. Elliot stared. That's not good. She nodded. It lives in the caves under the storm. You'll be dropped into its den. No way out but forward. No way around? Elliot asked Dot. She shook her head, then pressed something else into his hand. A small heat crystal, barely glowing. What's this? She sighed. Its breath hides. It used this to break the mist, but only once. He stared into her eyes. Why are you helping me again? Lyrian looked down, then back up. Her fingers moved slowly. You didn't run when I was blamed. You stood, so I stand with you. Elliot smiled faintly. Then the guards came. The cave was silent, too silent. They lowered Elliot down with a thick rope, then dropped him onto the icy ground. The rope pulled back up, leaving him alone. Darkness surrounded him. His breath fogged in the cold. He held the blade tight. Then came the sound-scraping claws. A growl like thunder. The mist grew thick around him. White fog, cold as knives, swallowed everything. Elliot took a deep breath. His heart pounded. He waited. And then used the heat crystal. The mist exploded with heat light, and for a moment he could see. The blizzarite roared and charged. It was huge, twice his height, covered in ice armor. Its jaws snapped inches from his face. Elliot dove to the side, rolled, and slashed. The blade cut deep, but not enough. He ducked behind a crystal rock. The beast rammed it, shattering it into pieces. Elliot crawled behind the beast and stabbed. Its leg, it screamed. Its tail swung and hit him hard. He flew across the cave and hit the wall. Pain shot through his ribs. Blood filled his mouth, but he stood. He raised the blade, ready to die fighting. Then he remembered Lyrian's sign. Use the heat, break the mist. But the heat was gone, unless... He saw a crack in the ice above the beast. An idea sparked. He ran, slid under the fail. Creature's belly cut it across the gut. Then, with all his strength, he threw the glowing blade at the crack. The blade struck, and the crack burst with steam. Boiling water rained down on the beast. It screamed. Its ice shell melting. It stumbled, collapsed. Elliot grabbed the nearby shard and held it out, but the beast didn't rise again. It lay still. He stood, panting, shaking. Then the wall slid open, and light poured in. The elders watched from above. High Elder rose. He lives, he said. The chamber filled with silence. Then, finally, bring him to us. Elliot stood before the elders, his clothes torn, his side bleeding. Ice crystals clung to his hair. Every breath hurt. But he was alive. The chamber was silent. Lyrian stood at the edge of the crowd. Her hands were clenched, her eyes fixed on him. High Elder Erelkin rose slowly from his seat. You faced death, he said, and you did not run. Elliot wiped blood from his mouth. I had no choice. Yet you did not kill the beast, one elder added, eyes sharp. I didn't need to, Elliot said. It was already beaten. I saw no reason to end its life. The council whispered among themselves. A few looked thoughtful. Others remained cold. Finally, Erelkin raised a hand. This human has passed the trial. He has shown courage and mercy. We will not destroy him. Lyrian let out a soft breath. She hadn't realized she was holding. But, the elder continued, he will not walk freely among us. Elliot raised a brow. So I'm not dead, but I'm not welcome? You will stay only under guidance. One watcher. One protector. One voice. Everyone turned to Lyrian. Elliot's heart jumped. He knew what was coming. She saved him. She knows his mind. She will answer for him, the elder declared. Lyrian stepped forward. She did not flinch. I accept, she signed, strong and clear. Past, the storm above grew worse. Great cracks appeared in the city ceiling. Ice chunks fell like thunder. The heat pillars that kept the city warm flickered and failed. Panic grew. One night, A loud alarm echoed through the caverns. Elliot and Lyrian rushed to the central chamber. Several elders and workers stood around. The largest power crystal, once glowing bright blue, now dull and cracked. "It's failing," one technician said. "The core's nearly dead." "We have reserves," an elder snapped. "Not enough," the technician replied. "The storm drains energy faster than we can store it. The city roof may collapse within days." Elliot stepped forward. "Let me help." The elders turned to him with narrowed eyes. "You know nothing of our systems," Elliot pointed at the cracked crystal. "That's a thermo-harmonic converter. I've worked on human versions. I can fix it or stabilize it long enough to power." "Defenses," Errolkin scowled. "If you damage it more, we lose everything." "Then let me try," Elliot said. "What do you have to lose?" There was a long pause. Then the elder nodded once. Lyrian and Elliot hurried to the maintenance shaft with a set of tools. She led him through a small hidden path that few ever used as they worked. Lyrian handed him wires, crystals, and frozen connectors. She watched him closely, but didn't speak. Her hands trembled. "Are you scared?" Elliot asked. She nodded. He smiled softly. "Me too." Suddenly, the tunnel shook. A deep rumble came from above. "The ceiling," Lyrian signed, wide-eyed. "It's breaking." Elliot worked faster. "Just a little more." The converter sparked, then hummed. The soft blue glow returned weak, but stable. Lyrian's face lit up with hope. "It's working." She signed. But before they could celebrate, part of the tunnel collapsed. A huge chunk of ice fell. Lyrian shoved Elliot out of the way, and the ice hit her shoulder. She fell to the ground, gasping in pain. "Lyrian!" Elliot crawled to her side. Her arm was twisted strangely. Blood stained her coat. She signed weakly. "Dislocated. Can't move." He looked around. No help. He grabbed a straight metal pipe and tore a strap from his coat. "This'll hurt," he said. "But I've done it before." He placed her arm carefully, locked the bone with the pipe, and yanked fast. Lyrian screamed, but only once. Then she passed out. Elliot picked her up in his arms and started moving through the ice tunnel. Every step was harder than the last. The city trembled again. Chunks of the ceiling were falling. The people below were screaming and running. As Elliot reached the surface tunnel, the light overhead shattered. Cold wind poured in. The storm had broken through, but behind him, the core still glowed. Faint, alive. Because of him. They reached the medical chamber. Lyrian opened her eyes slowly as the healers worked on her. Elliot sat beside her, bruised and bandaged. "You shouldn't have helped," she signed. "You helped me first," he replied. "Now we're even." She smiled faintly. A voice echoed in the chamber. Elder Errolkin stood at the entrance. "The city still stands," he said. "You delayed the storm's teeth." He paused. "Perhaps we were wrong about you, human." Elliot stood up stiff. "So now what? Do I get to leave?" The elder's gaze was heavy. "You have earned more than that. You have earned a choice." Later, Elliot stood with Lyrian in the watchtower. The storm outside still howled, but the wind was calmer now. "You could return to your people," she signed. "Leave this place." He looked at her. Then looked at the snow. "I could," he said. "But something tells me my place might be where the storm led me." Her silver eyes met his. Warmth passed between them. Not just survival, not just debt, but something more. When fire meets ice, sometimes it doesn't destroy. Sometimes it melts. The storm had won. Not completely, but enough. Large sections of the ceiling were now gone. Wind and snow poured into parts of the hidden city. Cold seeped into places once safe. The elders ordered evacuations of several chambers. Crystals cracked. Bridges snapped. Even the youngest children could feel it. The city beneath the ice was dying. Elliot stood at the edge of a broken corridor. watching the white wind rush through a collapsed tunnel. His breath fogged in front of him, even inside his thick coat. Behind him, workers tried to build emergency barriers, stacking glowing stones, but it was slow. Too slow. Lyrian limped beside him, her arms still wrapped and weak from the collapse. But her eyes were focused and sharp. She held a map crystal and pointed to 3 red spots blinking across it. 3 cores left, all unstable. She signed. If even one fails, the rest fall. Elliot rubbed his forehead. And the main transmitter? Still broken? She nodded grimly. Buried when ceiling fell, deep. Elliot's heart sank. The only device strong enough to send a signal into orbit, and it was under tons of ice and debris. Still, they had to try. He turned to the workers. I need tools, digging gear, anything with heat. One of them frowned. Why? To reach the comms tower. We might still call for help. From who? The man asked coldly. No one comes to Carrick 7. That's why it was safe. Maybe. Not for you, Elliot replied. But humans leave trackers. Emergency receivers. If I can connect the signal, someone will hear it. The worker looked unsure. But after a moment, he nodded and left to gather supplies. Lin looked at Elliot, tilting her head. Even now, still trying? Elliot gave a weak smile. You heard me once. Maybe someone else will. The dig was slow and dangerous. Elliot and 3 others, including Lyrian, worked hour after hour. Every time they cracked more ice, more snow poured in. They used glowing rods to melt through frozen slabs, but the rods faded fast. Elliot's hands were raw. Lyrian's bandaged fingers bled through her wraps. Still, they kept going. After what felt like an entire day, Elliot's rod hit something hard metal. He dropped to his knees and brushed the ice away. It was the top of the old human transmitter, bent, scarred, but still intact. He shouted, "We found it!" Lyrian smiled, exhaustion on her face. They dug out the hatch and pried it open. The inside was crushed on one side, but the core was untouched. Elliot climbed inside and began checking wires. I need a power source, he muttered. Something steady. Lyrian tapped his shoulder and handed him a tiny pulse battery, a backup from her own armor. You'll need that, he said. She signed. So will you. Elliot plugged it in. The transmitter flickered, then lit up faintly. A deep hum filled the air. He tapped the interface and began aligning the signal. The interface was an Earth standard, something he could finally understand, but the storm above made the signal too unstable. The machine beeped a warning. Lyrian leaned over, signing quickly. Use my frequency, my voice, my hum. It carried before. Elliot paused. You really think it'll work again? She nodded. He adjusted the panel, routed the signal through the vocal modulator, and looked at her. When you're ready. Lyrian closed her eyes. And began to hum, softly, slowly. Her voice vibrated the air. Low and pure. The signal meter on the screen started rising. 60%, 74%. The wind roared louder, but the signal cut through. Elliot smiled. It's working. Keep going. Her hum grew stronger, but suddenly the walls of the chamber groaned. A support beam cracked. Lyrian! Elliot reached for her. The beam above snapped loose. In a flash, Lyrian shoved Elliot away. The beam struck the ground where he stood. Seconds before, snow and dust filled the room. When it cleared, Elliot looked around, coughing. Lyrian? He found. Her pinned her leg crushed beneath debris. She was awake, but pale and breathing fast. He rushed over. Hold on. She grabbed his hand and weakly signed. Finish the signal. He hesitated, torn. She looked at him with fierce eyes. You must. Elliot turned back, hands shaking, and completed the signal burst. It launched. A loud chime confirmed. Message sent. Beacon active. He turned back. pulling rubble off her leg. Blood poured from the wound. "Stay with me," he said. "We're not done yet." He lifted her onto his back. She winced but didn't scream. The tunnel behind them collapsed further as he ran. Snow rushed in, ice cracked above, but Elliot didn't stop. He carried her through the falling debris, through the storming cave, until at last they emerged into the city chamber. Guards and workers rushed to help. Medics grabbed Lyrian. Elliot collapsed to his knees, gasping for breath. "The signal," he said. "It's out." Everyone stared at him in silence. Then Elder Errolkin stepped forward. "You did it," he said. "You called beyond the blizzard." Elliot didn't answer. He just looked toward Lyrian, unconscious but alive. 3 days passed. The storm still howled above the broken city, but something had changed. The people no longer moved with fear. They moved with hope. The beacon Elliot activated had sent its cry across the stars. Everyone waited, but no one knew if anyone had heard it. Inside the healing chamber, Elliot sat beside Lyrian. Her leg was wrapped with crystal bandages glowing softly. Her eyes were closed, her face peaceful but pale. He gently took her hand. "You saved me again," he whispered. "Twice now." A medic entered and smiled. "She's healing well. Stronger than most of us." Elliot gave a tired laugh. "Yeah, she always is." He looked up at the ceiling above. It was patched with temporary supports and melting ice. The city was still standing, but barely. And then the sound came, a new sound, a low hum, mechanical, familiar. Not from below, but above. Everyone in the chamber froze. Elliot rushed out into the open courtyard. Others were already gathering, staring up at the half-broken ceiling. Through the cracks in the ice above, lights shined down. Bright, white, artificial. A ship. Real human ship. It hovered low, massive engines pushing snow away in wide circles. The storm winds couldn't stop it. The human rescue vessel was military grade, strong and loud, and it had come. They heard it, Elliot breathed. They actually heard it. The elders stood in silence, eyes wide. Most had never seen a human ship in person. As the ship lowered, a small hatch opened, and a group of humans in thermal suits descended by cable. "Emergency response team sector. Delta," one said through a speaker. "We received a long-range distress signal. Scanning for survivors now." Elliot stepped forward. "Here. This city is filled with survivors. We need medics, heat units, structural supplies, everything." The soldier looked at him. "You're the one who sent the signal?" Elliot nodded. "You saved a lot of lives," the soldier said with quiet respect. Later that night, the courtyard glowed with warmth again. Human rescue teams worked side by side with the alien citizens. Portable heaters were placed around the city. Broken towers were supported with steel frames. Food packs were handed out. Wounded were treated. For the first time in weeks, there was no panic. Only quiet work and quiet wonder. Elliot stood at the edge of the chamber with a hot drink in hand. Steam curled into the cold air. He looked over and saw Lyrian slowly walking toward him on crutches. "But walking. You should be resting," he said gently. She smiled and signed. "I wanted to see it with my own eyes." He looked up at the ship above them. "You did this." "I just followed your voice." She stepped beside him and looked at the humans moving through the city. Then she signed. "What happens now?" Elliot was quiet. "Your people might still not trust mine," he said. "Even with help, some humans. They fear what they don't understand." She nodded. "And your people?" she asked. He looked around. "They fear the same thing." There was a long silence between them. Then Elliot smiled. "But maybe this storm changed something." Lyrian looked at him. Her silver eyes reflected the lights above. "Will you go with them?" she asked. He hesitated. "I should. There's work to do. Reports to give. I'm a soldier, technically." She lowered her gaze. "But," he said, stepping closer, I don't have to stay gone. Her eyes rose slowly. I want to come back, he said, if you'll let me. She smiled and gently signed, then I'll be waiting. By morning, Elliot stood at the ship's ramp, looking down at the icy city. The High Elder, Erelkin, stood beside Lyrian. He stepped forward and spoke. You entered our world as a stranger, the Elder said, and changed it. Elliot bowed slightly. Thank you for not letting me freeze to death. The Elder smirked. That was not my choice. He looked at Lyrian. She believed when no one else did. Elliot turned to her. Keep that voice strong. It saved everything. She touched her fingers to his heart, then her own. So did yours. The ship door closed slowly. As it rose into the sky, Elliot watched through the window as the frozen world grew smaller. The hidden city disappeared beneath the snow once more, but his heart stayed behind, not buried in the cold, but held in the warmth of one voice that had heard his cry, the voice of a girl from the ice.